Before we begin, I want to be clear about something. Every story on this channel is written, edited, and narrated by me. Some are inspired by real cases or listener submissions, but all are rewritten to focus on realism and psychological detail. 3 real horror stories that happened during a power outage. You'll regret hearing these at night. The sound under the house. I still remember the exact moment I realized something was wrong. 3 hours into a citywide blackout, my living room was lit by nothing but the ember glow of a dying candle and the distant hum of sirens far off in the hills. The air was cool, not just from rain, but in the way it does right before something bad happens. You know the feeling. The outage had been sudden. 1 second, I was watching the end of a documentary on Channel 9, something about missing hikers, and the next, the screen went black. The lamp beside the couch clicked out, and in that instant, I could hear everything else more clearly. The old fridge ticking as it powered down, the buzz of silence settling over the block. At first, I thought the sound I heard was part of that silence, like my brain was just filling in the blanks. It started as soft knocking, somewhere beneath the floorboards. I assumed it was the wind, or maybe some loose pipe thudding from the pressure drop. My apartment sits up on wooden stilts, an older build with a crawl space underneath. I'd lived there for 2 years and never once thought about what was below me. Until that night. The knocking came again. Not random this time. Rhythmic, slow, almost polite. I turned my head slightly to one side, as if that would help me hear better. Then I froze. It wasn't a pipe, and it wasn't random. It sounded like knocking, like someone or something inside the crawl space was trying to get my attention. Deliberate. 3 soft taps, then a pause, then 3 more. I tried to laugh it off, told myself it was rats or maybe just wood adjusting from the storm. But the taps didn't match the storm rhythm. They matched a heartbeat. I stood up slowly, listening hard. The rain had softened outside, and that eerie blackout quiet returned. I reached for my phone and flicked on the flashlight. My thumb was shaking badly. The light scanned the room, catching on picture frames, dust, the corners of the couch. Nothing looked out of place. Then the knocking turned into something else. A dragging sound. Slow, heavy, like someone pulling a bag of wet laundry across bare wood. Except it was coming from under my feet, from directly below the coffee table. I didn't want to, but I stepped closer. The floor felt colder here, like there was no insulation beneath it. I crouched slightly, listening hard, and that's when I heard it. Not just dragging, breathing. Shallow, wet breathing. Too close. Then silence. I stood there, holding my breath, waiting for another sound. Nothing. Just my pulse pounding in my ears. I told myself to back away, go to the bedroom, lock the door. But my feet stayed planted. Then, without warning, the floorboard directly under me flexed. Something underneath pushed up hard from below, rattling the wood loud enough to make my candle flicker and go out completely. I stumbled back in the dark, flashlight beam bouncing wildly. And in that moment, just before I ran, I swear I felt it. A weight underneath me. Something alive, Something pressing upward, waiting for the wood to give. I didn't see it. I didn't have to. I ran for the bedroom, fumbling along the wall, slammed the door and locked it. Then I sat in the corner for what felt like hours. No more tapping. No more breathing. Only the sound of distant sirens, and once what might have been something brushing against the outside of the bedroom wall. The power came back at 5:13 a.m. When I checked under the house later that week with a contractor friend, we found nothing. No sign of intrusion, no broken beams, just dust and spider webs. But every blackout since, I hear it again. Only quieter. Only when the lights go out. The shadow in the backyard. The outage was sudden, the kind where all the streetlights blink out at once. You don't realize how much noise the grid makes until it's gone. Everything felt off, not just dark, hollow. I stepped onto my back porch to breathe, clutching an old lantern and a cheap flashlight I barely ever used. The humidity hit me first, thick and unmoving. No wind, no hum of AC units, just the still air and the faint crackle of distant thunder. The neighborhood was quiet, too quiet. Even the usual night birds had gone silent. It was that heavy silence, the kind that presses down on your skin. I lifted the lantern light and scanned the yard. It looked normal. Tree limbs, fence posts, a trash bin swaying gently. Nothing unusual. I leaned against the railing, trying to shake the unease crawling up my spine. Then I saw it. A dark shape, tall and still, just beyond the fence line, near the trees. Not moving, not swaying, just watching me. I froze. At first I thought it was a neighbor, maybe someone checking a breaker or letting a dog out, but no one lived directly behind me. Just a tree line and a slope toward the old walking trail. And this shape, it didn't move. Not when I blinked. Not when a breeze rustled the bushes around it. I stared harder, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. It was too tall for a person, too narrow, and completely black. Not just dark from the lack of light, but black like a missing piece of the world. Like light couldn't touch it. "Hello," I called out, voice already trembling. "You okay out there?" Nothing. No reply. Just that static silence pressing against my ears. I lit a cigarette with shaking hands, trying to anchor myself. The glow from the flame flickered weakly in the lantern light. I looked back across the yard and nearly dropped it. The shape was closer now. It had moved maybe 10 feet closer to the fence. Still tall, still featureless, still completely still. My heart slammed. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to turn around and shut the door. But I couldn't move. My legs felt locked. I stared at it, afraid to blink. I raised the lantern higher, and the shape still didn't cast a shadow. Not even a faint one. Just absence. A void of light. I stepped back, then another step. The wood creaked under my feet. Suddenly, the wind came. But it didn't feel natural. It howled too fast, too loud, and seemed to swirl only in the yard. And the shape moved. Not toward me, but across the yard, swiftly, silently, gliding without a sound or footprint. No rustling leaves, no snapping twigs, just a blur of darkness skating across the grass. That broke whatever trance I was in. I stumbled back through the sliding door, slammed it shut, and locked it with both hands. My lantern crashed to the floor, casting chaotic shadows across the walls. I crouched behind the window and peeked through the curtain, heart thudding like a drum. The yard was empty. No shape, no wind, just stillness again. Then, the power kicked back on. The porch light blinked to life. Street lights up and down the block came back. My kitchen hummed. The fridge motor started back up with a click. I flicked the switch and flooded the backyard with light. Still nothing. No figure, no footprints, no sign anything had been there at all. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the couch with every light on in the house, waiting for dawn. I told myself it had to be a trick of the dark, my brain inventing shadows. But something in me knew better. Even now, I still check the backyard every night. Porch light on, lantern ready. But I never stay outside when the power's out. There's definitely something in the darkness beyond the fence. I just hope I never really find out what it is. The Whispering Circuit Breaker. My apartment's electrical panel sits in the hallway closet, a plain gray box with switches and faded labels. I'd walked past it 1,000 times without thinking twice. Just a utility thing, nothing more. Until that night. The blackout hit just after midnight. I'd been dozing off on the couch with the TV on low. 1 second, the screen was flickering through the end credits of a crime doc. The next, everything went black. Dead quiet. Then the storm hit harder, rain pounding sideways against the windows, thunder like a distant explosion. I lit one of my backup candles I kept in the kitchen drawer and sat back down, phone in hand. No signal, no bars, not even Wi-Fi, just that little SOS icon up top. That's when I heard it, a whisper. At first, I thought it came from outside, the wind playing tricks, maybe even the plumbing. But then it came again, closer, more distinct. Turn it back on. I froze. The voice was soft but deliberate, low, like someone speaking just behind the drywall. I sat perfectly still, listening hard. Turn it back on. It didn't sound threatening, just familiar. The cadence hit me first. It reminded me of someone I used to know, a friend from school. We were close once, then drifted apart like people do sometimes. He died a few years back. Honestly, I never really processed it. Maybe guilt and regret, if I'm being honest with myself. I shook off the chill creeping up my neck and blew out the candle to listen better. The whisper kept going. Same phrase, same soft voice. And it was definitely coming from the hallway, from behind the closet door. I stood up slowly, flashlight in hand. The wooden floor creaked beneath me. Each step, the voice repeated, steady as breathing. Turn it back on. My hand trembled as I reached for the closet handle. I hesitated, then pulled it open. Inside was the breaker box, closed, just like always. But when I opened the panel, I stopped cold. The main switch was turned off. Then I heard it. A breath. Not mine. Right behind me. I spun around. The hallway was empty. No movement. No sound. The shadows from the candlelight danced on the walls, but there was nothing there. Until the whisper came again. This time, inches from my right ear. Turn it back on. I jumped back and slammed the closet door shut. My heart was pounding, my hands were ice, the flashlight trembled in my grip, but for some reason, I felt pulled back to the panel, almost like I didn't have a choice. I opened it again, took one slow breath, then without thinking, I reached in and flipped the main breaker switch. Everything roared back to life. The hallway lights blinked on, the fridge in the kitchen buzzed, the air conditioner kicked back on with a low groan, and the whisper stopped, just like that. I leaned against the doorframe, breathing hard. After a long moment, I looked back at the breaker box, at the labels. That's when I saw it. One of the faded strips of masking tape, the kind I'd never bother replacing, now had something written on it, in smeared, uneven handwriting. A name. His name. The friend I hadn't seen since I was 19. The one who died in a car crash 7 years ago. I know for a fact I never wrote it. I never labeled that switch. But it was there, just below the one I flipped. And every time the lights flicker now, I find myself staring at that label, wondering if the whisper will return, wondering what happens if I don't turn it back on. There's a reason so many unsettling experiences happen during power outages. It's not just the darkness, it's the sudden loss of normal reference points. When the lights go out, familiar spaces stop behaving the way we expect them to. Sounds feel closer, shadows feel intentional, and the mind starts filling in gaps faster than logic can keep up. What makes these stories disturbing isn't what's seen, it's what might be there, just out of reach, when everything familiar shuts off at once. This is Mr. H. You're listening to Masked Horror. If you have a story you want to share, you can submit it through the link on the channel homepage. I read everything myself and only feature stories that feel grounded and real.